Hello to all of our School Improvement Council members that are watching this video on updating your root causes. My name is Sue Reynolds and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute, and this video is really the prompt for the discussion you're going to have today with your council and your steering team on updating your root causes. A little bit of background information first. Let's do a quick review. So as a reminder, first semester you focused on implementing your current interventions. So the school improvement plan that you wrote last year and you've been implementing throughout the 2016-17 school year, we really focused on getting that on the ground and getting those interventions in place during the first semester. Then second semester, we're creating your school improvement plan for next year, so for 2017-18. And the question is, given who we are now and the new student data we have, what adjustments do we need to make in our school improvement plan to transition it from being a 16-17 plan to a 17-18 plan? So in January, we updated your goals. And your council, or your steering team today is going to give you a report that shows all of your priority areas for improvement as well as your SMART goals. So you've got your academic goals set for 17-18 right now, so that's finished. Then in February this month, what we're going to be doing is figuring out what's getting in the way of students being able to reach your 2017-18 goals. We'll call those root causes. We'll look at a bunch of data that's going to help you to do that. And then we'll update the root causes in your 16-17 plan so they become your root causes for your 17-18 plan. And then after today, once we know what your root causes are for next year, then we'll start talking in March about what interventions you'll put in place next year to address those root causes. And then finally, after you're finished with all the discussions, your steering team will look at putting together a professional development plan, an annual calendar, and in figuring out a way to get the resources, funding, or materials that they need to implement the interventions that you've planned. So that's kind of the process. Right now you have two products in your 17-18 school improvement plan. You have your vision statement and you have your 17-18 goals. And so today we're working on the root causes. Okay, so let's look at root causes and what they are. So a root cause is just something that gets in the way of achievement. It's whatever's blocking achievement or making achievement not happen like you would like it to in your schools. Those are root causes. Root causes answer the question, why aren't more students reaching the benchmarks in our goals? Why aren't more kids successful? What's getting in the way? Those are root causes. So a root cause may be general or it may be specific. A general root cause impacts all subject areas, all courses, all standards. So some examples are like poor attendance. If your school has poor attendance, that's something that's going to impact every area, every academic area, every course, every standard. If your school has poor student discipline across the board, that's something that's going to impact all subjects, all courses, all standards. If the teachers aren't engaging students in their instruction, that's going to impact everything. So a general root cause is something that's getting in the way across everything, across all subjects, all courses, all standards. It's general. Okay. A specific root cause is something that's impacting a specific subject, a specific course, or even a specific standard. So an example might be that lessons on ratios are absent from the 7th grade curriculum. So that is not going to impact your language arts courses or your English language arts standards. It is going to impact your 7th grade math standards. So these specific root causes will impact a specific subject, a course, or a standard, but not everything. So that's why we call them specific. Okay, so we have general root causes and specific root causes. Here are some specifics. I'm sorry, new idea. Root causes are also supported by data. So let's look at the first one, poor attendance. That was a general root cause. So our data that makes us think that is maybe something like 7% of all students are absent more than 10 times during the school year according to school records. So in other words, we want our root causes to be backed up by data. We don't want it to just be a hunch. And that's really key to our process, and why I think our schools experience such gains in achievement is because we're not just guessing. We might have a hunch, but we're going to back it up with data. If we have a hunch that student discipline is an issue and is keeping our kids from learning, then we're going to look for data that would back up that hunch. And sometimes we don't even have the hunch, but we start looking at the data, and it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was a problem. And so that data will point us into the correct direction for change. So, okay, so root causes are supported by data. Schools that improve, from our experience and from our literature review, schools that improve tend to very carefully identify both general and specific root causes for each of their SMART goals. And again, what we're doing here is we're fine-tuning or fine-focusing the direction later of your interventions. And if we can really narrow it down to, here's something that's impacting everything, but here's something that's impacting that one standard in 7th grade math. And if we can narrow that down, then we're able to focus our interventions, and that's what makes achievement go up. So, so we hope that you'll really carefully look at the data that you were given prior to coming to this meeting, and that you really rolled up your sleeves and tried to find those places that are interfering with learning. Okay, so the question then today, as you're talking as a council with all of you there together, is why aren't our students achieving at a higher level? So there will be clues in the data reports, and before you came to this meeting, we asked you to look for some of those clues. So you opened up 7 different data reports for your school, and you got out that magnifying glass and you started looking at, is there anything about our school's expectations of kids that might be getting in the way? Is there anything about the amount of rigor that we require in our schools that is getting in the way? How about instruction? How about the way we assess kids in the classroom and how we use the results of those assessments? What about the way we provide extra help for kids that are struggling, or the way we provide student guidance? Or is there anything in our environment, not only student discipline, but parent involvement, community involvement? Are there things there? So, you were like Sherlock Holmes looking through all that data, trying to discover, what was getting in the way of achievement in your school. As you looked at those reports, you saw data reported in 2 different ways. There were survey data for questions that were answered by students, teachers, parents, and your community members. I myself find that data to be just compelling. I love looking at that data and seeing what stories are in it. And then also your steering team entered some short answer questions about different practices at their school that will help you understand how well your school is aligned with best practices in schools that tend to achieve at a high level. So, so lots of information in the data that you looked at. As you were looking at the reports, one of the things that you might have found, for example, is if we're just looking at the question, do you expect to continue your education after high school? 88, and this is a real school's data. In this school, 88% of the students said that they agreed with that. 100% of the parents said they agreed with that for their children. 56% of the community members agreed that the kids in the community were going to continue their education after high school, and 48% of the teachers. So, as we look at this data, what does that tell you? And, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm thinking, ooh, only 48% of the teachers. Does that mean that the teachers are going to be going after all kids if they don't believe that all kids are going to continue their education after high school? Are they providing extra help? Are they getting all kids enrolled in rigorous courses? If we don't expect students to continue their education after high school, are we going to then prepare kids to continue their education after high school? So all of this data, this just happens to be an expectations report, but all this data is very interesting to kind of tell you what stories are going on. This is the short answer data. This happens to be one from the Curriculum Rigor Report. And again, just interesting data. This is a high school report. What percentage of ninth graders are enrolled in Core 40? We see in the freshman year 97%, sophomore year 97%, junior year we dropped down to 94%. Why? I'd be wanting to have a discussion about, what is it that happens between sophomore year and junior year that makes that percentage come down, and then it comes down again in before the senior year. So again, just lots of stories in this data that make you think, that make you ask further questions as we're trying to really pinpoint what's getting in the way of achievement at your school. Okay, so here's how this might work as you're having the discussion today. Let's say that in your school, one of your PAIs or your broad areas for improvement was to increase the percentage of students who pass Algebra 1. And one of your SMART goals under there was to increase the percentage of students who master linear equations on the Algebra 1 ECA. So you've done a drill down report and you've discovered that you've got an issue with all students, and it's with this one standard, an indicator on linear equations. So now the question is, how come kids aren't learning linear equations? What's getting in the way? And so through your discussions today, you may come up with things like this. First possible answer, linear equations are not reinforced over time in the math instruction. Maybe they're introduced once and that's it. So that would really, beg for the math department to really look at how are we going to reinforce that over time. So another one is extra help does not exist outside the classroom for math. So that root cause is a little bit more general. It's, it impacts all math classes, but it would certainly impact this SMART goal as well. And the last one, students report that classroom discipline is making learning difficult. And again, if that's across the board, chances are it may be impacting these classes as well. So yeah, so that's how it would work. We start out with a PAI, we go to a SMART goal, and then we start thinking about each SMART goal one at a time and thinking about, okay, what's getting in the way of this SMART goal? Okay, so before we get into your discussion, we want to give you a chance to look at what the student body said. The question that we gave the students was just in a very general nature to report on the things that they think are getting in the way of students being able to learn at school. And so what I'd like to suggest that you do is pause the video here, and the steering team will pass out copies of the student body discussion summary report, or maybe they'll just kind of talk through that report with you and not actually give you copies, their choice. But we want to take a look at what the students said they feel the root causes are in the school. So let's pause now, and then we'll come back when you're ready. Okay, welcome back everyone, and let's now go on to your council discussion. Okay, so here's the council discussion. What we want to think about is the data that you have already studied, and we know that you brought to your meeting tonight or this afternoon or this morning, you've brought a copy of the root cause help sheet. So, and on this help sheet, you've written the possible root causes across the top, and then you've checked off on this report your own school's individual SMART goals have appeared here at the side. So on this report, you've written your root cause up here, and then you've checked off the SMART goals that you think that root cause might impact, and then you've given the evidence of where you found information that make you think that this is possibly a root cause. So there's one. Students 2 years behind do not get extra help in math. Here's another possible root cause. Students do not complete their homework. So this is a general root cause. So I'm going to you've put a check up here in the general column. And where did you find this information? On the SI2 student survey. And so that's how you do that. So there's two examples, a specific example and then a general root cause. Okay, so as a council, you've brought these sheets to the table, and now we want to just take a moment to look at each of your SMART goals from last year, and to look at the root causes for that SMART goal, and to think about, are there any of these root causes that need to be omitted or revised, or are there new root causes that you discovered in your data review excuse me, that we need to add? So this is the place where we're going to transition the root causes that you had for 16-17 into the root causes that you want to address in 17-18. It normally takes several years to address a root cause successfully, so it would not be unusual at all for you to continue all of your root causes from one year to the next. But you might find a few that you think, we've nailed that root cause. We've addressed attendance. We have great attendance now. It's no longer a root cause. Let's get it off the list. Or there may be a new root cause that's jumped out in your data that didn't exist last year but now does, and so you might want to add that on. You might also just discover that you want to change some of the wording in one of your root causes, and we can do that as well. Okay, so what we'd like to suggest is that you pause the video again and just one at a time look at each of your SMART goals that you had last year and the root causes that were underneath that goal, and then decide if you want to omit, revise, or add. One more thing, that if you have a SMART goal that you took out of your plan for next year, then it would just be logical that you would also take out all of the root causes for that SMART goal, since the SMART goal is no longer something that you're doing. So, okay, so let's pause now. Really take some time, a good chunk of time, to look at every single one of your SMART goals from last year, and then underneath each of those SMART goals, what do we need to do with the existing root causes, and then do we need to add new ones? So, okay, let's pause now and let's do that. Okay, welcome back. Now I'm assuming that you have looked at each of your SMART goals and you've revised your root causes, taking some out, rewording some maybe, and adding new root causes, so that now we know what we want to work on next year. After today, your steering team will consider everything, all the input that you just gave them. They will create a preliminary root cause list. That root cause list will be organized by SMART goals, and then they'll send that out to you and ask you for consensus. Remember, for consensus, the two questions are, can you live with this? You don't have to love it, but can you live with these root causes? And could you support them publicly if somebody asks you about them? So, okay, so that's follow-up, and really appreciate everybody's participation in your council and in this discussion, and especially the time you took prior to this meeting to look at all of your data. So thanks everyone, and I look forward to meeting with you next month, where we'll begin talking about interventions to address these root causes. Thanks everyone.